Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, where we look at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hi, and welcome back to Modern Musings. I'm your hostess, Cindy Murray, and I'm here today with Kristen Hessler and Amber Jones.
Hi.
Hello.
This is the time of year when we typically start looking at our goals that we've set for the whole year and kind of assessing where they've gone, how they've worked for us, and maybe even start thinking about what we're going to do for the coming year. I know it seems kind of early to be thinking about that because we're in November, but really, there's 6 weeks left of the year, and then we're into January and people start setting new goals or making resolutions or whatever you want to call them. So a lot of those goal programs that we've used before encourage you to look at your goals at the end of the year and kind of reassess where you've come with it. And also, this is the time of year where you might have purchased a new goal planning or planner system or something like that. And so your new planners may be having you do some setup work with those to kind of get you started so that you can hit the ground running at the first of the year when it's time to set your goals or make your resolutions. So we wanted to invite you to kind of come along with us on our planning and setup for the year. And we're going to talk about some of the things that we do to get started and the things that we will be doing for the next 6 weeks before we set our goals. And maybe they'll give you some ideas of things that you can do as well. One of the things, as I mentioned, that we like to do first is reassess our goals from the previous year.
Yeah, review our progress.
Right. And find what worked. And usually I do, for me, I like to just kind of read back, maybe flip through my goals from where I started at the beginning of the year and kind of assess whether my goals changed as the year passed or whether they stayed the same and I was still working on the same goal, which sometimes happens. If it's like a big goal, it might take me the whole year or longer to complete it. But I like to look back at those and make some notes to myself about what worked, what didn't work, what steps I still need to take. Maybe assess whether this is a goal that's going to follow me into the next year or whether I'm ready to set it aside and work on something else. Do y'all have anything different that y'all do with your goals? When you're assessing your goals, do you have any kind of rating system or anything like that you use?
No.
Well, probably like mine's very more black and white. Like, did I hit the goal? Yes or no? Did I come close? Yes or no? And then if I wanted to or needed to, would I do it again? Because
okay.
like sometimes you set a goal and then you start on it and then you realize at the end or whenever, you had set that time frame to achieve the goal and you look back and you were like, that really wasn't me.
Right.
Well,
right.
I mean, I think that there are like two different types of goals. When I look at it, there's like the blanket goals that we always, you always have every year. Mine are typically like health related, that I want to do this thing to improve my mental health. And then I want to do this thing to improve my physical health, and I don't really like set up like I don't really do a specific goal on that, like as far as SMART goals are concerned. Like a specific goal would be, I want to lose 20 pounds.
Right.
I don't really do, because I know myself. Either I'll lose 20 pounds or I'll gain 20 pounds or I'll lose 40 pounds and then gain 20 pounds because my whole life has been just like one yo-yo. So generally my goal is just to like work on my health, continuously work on my health.
Like keep
Okay.
it top of mind, but not
Yeah.
setting yourself up for expectation that you're afraid you might fail at.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, one of my goals for this year was to start, therapy, start talk therapy, start seeing somebody, maybe not like on a weekly basis, but like a monthly basis or
Mhm.
so, just kind of like check in with my mental health. And so I accomplished that. So now I'm going to continue it and go next level next year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So your goal was
to start.
to start
to
something,
establish
so it
that
wasn't
habit.
Establish
like
it, yeah.
go 50 times to see a therapist and solve my problems. It was just to do it once. Yeah, at
Well,
least.
yeah, it was like
Yeah.
to find somebody, establish it,
Mhm.
and then start
That's good.
going. Start
Make it a
the
habit.
And then you
Yeah.
gave yourself
grieving
like
process
the whole
that I
year.
haven't. Yeah.
and you gave yourself the whole year to take the step
Right.
to
Yeah.
do it. And then, like I said, that's like for mine, it's like a yes or no question. I have some goals like that. Like, did I do it? Yes or no? That's
Right.
kind of my analysis. And then,
Yeah.
when I'm like kind of reviewing, I think maybe I don't get too deep into it. I know, like, with like one little word, Allie Edwards always has like these really good like end of year reviews, and I think
Mhm.
that's where I don't get as deep. And I think it's because I try to answer the question in the space that is provided on her little forms, and it's
yeah.
not enough to explain this deep-seated reason why I failed to make a commitment to hit my goal. So I think it's more of like I would probably need to do some deep shadow work to answer those questions on
Uh-huh.
my goals to
Uh-huh.
reevaluate. So like just filling out a form worksheet wouldn't be enough. Like
Right.
it's either yes or no, or I need some like deep
Deeper
shadow work.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
So like for me, my main question that I ask is what didn't work
Right.
because I didn't hit the goal, for whatever reason.
Mhm.
Yes, there are goals that you will see me catching me, obtaining. Usually they're the ones that are for fun. So, but like Amber, I also struggle with the health goals, and I don't always see myself hitting the goal. Like this year, I was going really great towards my health goal, and then I really like fell off of the great progress that I was making. So at the end of the year, can I say I hit my goal? Because the first part of the year I was doing great, but the second half of the year I feel like I didn't hit the
Right.
goal.
Right.
So my mind that's thinking binary, yes or no, black and white, did I hit the goal? I'm kind of like arguing with myself internally, like, did I actually do it or not? I should probably give myself credit and say yes because I did some.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like where I'm at with my goal progress is
Well, it depends on the wording, really.
allowing
like,
myself
Yeah,
to
it
say,
does.
yeah, you
Yeah.
did some, so you did good. But literally, I had one goal that I set this year in my learning category that I forgot what it was until just the other day. And I was like, oh, yeah, because it just wasn't as important. I didn't like think it all the way through this
Right.
year and how it would apply in my life with all the other things going on. So when I ask myself what didn't work, my first answer was I didn't have my goals visible already. I could tell you that because I didn't even remember what one of my goals was on and off throughout the year. I kept forgetting. And then the other thing was, what didn't work was having just more goals than my time could manage.
Right, right. And for me, I normally set a goal in each of our we've done in the past, we've done the Cultivate Your Life or Cultivate What Matters program, and she has like 8 categories where you set your goals. And Kristen and I have been in development, and Amber too, of a kind of a goal setting system that we're working on, and it's not refined yet, but it encompasses 12 goal setting areas, and I tend to want to set at least a small maintenance goal in all of the categories. if I don't have a larger goal in mind for it. But this year, right at the time where we were, getting ready to set goals and start the new year, was when my husband passed away. So I wound up really not setting goals in those categories at all. And I think I had refined like two goals, and I did nothing on them because, when my husband passed away, all of my goals changed. So I just didn't have the capacity to reframe all of them. And I wasn't through setting them up in the first place. So I just kind of let them lie fallow. And I took two things that were important to me to get done and just focused totally on those. One was my finances, and the other was cleaning out my garage. So they were two very, I call them super goals because they were extremely detailed. They had a lot of steps. There was a lot of work involved. My finances involved prepping for 2 tax years plus the current year, transferring all of my husband's estate and stuff over to me, and all kinds of things that entails.
Those were your big hairy goals.
They were my big hairy goals.
Your BHAGs.
And then I had my garage was stacked almost to the ceiling. And I will share some pictures on the blog or something because it's frightening. But it was stacked up with stuff that has been moved.
Sounds like my house.
Out of my house into the garage,
Right.
and out of the shed into the garage, and out of my mother's house into my garage, and out of my niece's house into the garage. And I had like 3 extra people's worth of stuff and nowhere to put it. And so I started working on this garage, and I'm still kind of working on it, but those two things really consumed all of my time. And I just did not have the mental capacity to focus on other goals. So then when I look at those goals, kind of like Kristen, did I accomplish them the way I imagined I would when I set those goals? Then that would be a no. But I made significant progress on those goals. I hit some very important deadlines with all of those goals, and I am satisfied with the work I did on those goals. So I'm calling them a win. Maybe not a total win, but maybe like a 70 or 80% win, which we've talked about before with the 70% rule, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I figure if I just keep working at it a little bit, it'll eventually come to that 100%. But right now we're at that 70%. So Amber is sending me notes telling me to purge. Yes. And that is what I've been doing. Yes.
I'm sending it to everybody.
Yes.
If and so this is we were looking at like different goal setting methods before this episode. And I found this fun blog that had like 15 different methods of goal setting and some of these we didn't even know about. And one of them, and this person that wrote this blog ranked them by like, I guess their favorite.
Okay.
And so SMART goals, of course, is their number one, which is everybody's number one pretty much.
Yeah.
My number one, it's something I teach in school, even if I don't follow it 100% myself all the time. But it's always been like a thing, SMART goals. But their number 2, and this is gonna be like my new favorite one. It's called BHAG, Big Hairy Audacious Goals. And so Cindy's over here talking about cleaning out her garage, and I was kind of like brainstorming a little bit on what kind of goals I want to have for next year, along with, the streamlining goals, mental health, physical health,
Right.
And I was just, you were talking about purging your garage and everything and your mom's stuff and everything. And, we all know that had like this big burden that I've carried around with me for years, since 2018. 6 years. Crazy. That of my parents' stuff and my
Right.
grandma's stuff in 3 different storage units, 2 of which I pay for, another one I don't pay for.
Mhm.
And you know, I've been like kind of talking with Kristen about this over like the past 6 months or so, and just kind of chewing on it this year, you know, after getting married and everything like that, and working on my house and sending boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff to Goodwill that, you know, I don't really care about, or my aesthetic has changed and
Mhm.
everything like that.
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, what is my big, hairy, audacious goal for next year? And it is to tackle my parents' stuff.
That's a big one. And I you know,
And
that's
that's going to be my BHAG for next year.
yeah. I mean, that's where I was with this garage thing. It was, you know, we had a friend who had cancer who moved in with us. Well, we inherited all of his belongings.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that was left here for my husband and I. My mother moved in with us, and then
Mm-hmm.
I moved her out into an assisted living. And so I had all of her stuff. I had my niece who moved in with me, and her stuff was here. And then I had to move things out of my house to make room for these people, and those things wound up in my garage.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's just been this crazy mess.
Yeah.
And so those really have been my goals, and it will continue to be part of my goal. I'm like just purging in general, because
Yeah.
dealing with this has taught me, and it taught me from the time I was dealing with my mother's stuff, that I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to have all this stuff, and I don't want my kids to have to be stuck with all this stuff. So I'm kind of doing a almost Swedish death cleaning kind of thing.
Right.
And
Mhm.
and so that's kind of one of my goals, but also just making my house be the way I want my house to be. And
Yeah.
so in a project like that, it's really hard to set goals for other projects. I mean, I still have to maintain my health, my mental health, my physical health.
Mhm.
I still have
Relationships and yeah.
I still have goals in those areas. I'm just not actually tracking them or monitoring them, you know, in a physical way, or you know, in a book or a journal or a planner or something like that. So those goals still exist. They're just not written down and formalized in any way. But that in going back and reassessing my goals, um, the next part of that is reassessing your values. And
Mhm.
so, because sometimes your values change over time,
Yeah.
and whereas like I mentioned before, I set goals based on my husband's health and health issues and things like that, and things that were going on in our house. And then he passed away, and that really made a left turn out of all of my
Yeah.
goals. So those, you know, those goals changed, and they will continue to change as my life evolves and as your lives evolve, you know.
Yeah.
And so but one of the things that also changed were values, and maybe not so much my values changed, but maybe the priority of my values changed. So I no longer have a spousal relationship that was one of my high values, but I do still have responsibilities to his estate and to his legacy or whatever that are still part of my goal system. So I like to go back and reassess values. And we talked about this last year in October in our personal mottos and values episode.
I know, God, it feels like we just did that.
I know,
episode,
like-
like a few months ago.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But I shared my manifesto, and we shared a worksheet that you can do to help you evaluate your values. And that is always a great exercise for me, because it kind of shows me where I'm pointed when I'm getting ready to set my goals for the next year? And am I still in alignment with those things? Because sometimes we set goals that are not in alignment with our higher self, you know?
Right.
And if you're setting a goal to make more money at work, but your value is to spend more time with your family, then those two values, the value is not in alignment with your goal.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for your values to be in alignment with your goals, because you're not going to succeed at your goals if they're not aligned with what you really
Right.
value.
And I feel like the big, hairy, audacious goal also needs to have your values in mind. So,
yes.
like, for your garage clean out or Amber's, you know, situation where she wants to tackle this, you know,
Something that I've been avoiding
cloud
for
that
like
she's been
yeah.
carrying around
Right.
with her, you have to be passionate about a big, hairy, audacious goal. I think
Right.
that's why it makes it audacious, because it's like, wow, you have the audacity to have that goal, but
Right.
because you're passionate about it. Because if you're not passionate about that goal, it is going to be so hard to achieve that goal.
Right.
Well,
And then you're
and-
going to be disappointed when you
Yeah.
don't.
Well, and so yes, I've been avoiding it for 6 years, 7, because my dad died 7 years ago, and my mom and I just like actually my ex-husband really and my cousin just kind of threw my dad, well, didn't throw, but put my dad's stuff
Hastily put his things in a store.
in
Right.
a storage
Yeah.
unit that and that's a unit that I have not opened in 7 years.
Yeah.
It's full of useless furniture really that I don't need.
Yeah.
And I had made, and I was talking with Kristen about this a while back as well, about this huge buffet thing that was my great grandmother's. It's pretty, but it's ugly at the same time. And it's huge, and it takes 2-3 people to move it. It's so huge. The wood, yeah, like it's 1950s, whatever. Wood is so heavy, and it's just like a big, what's the word? It's just like a big looming dark thing
Mm-hmm.
taking up the wall,
Yeah.
almost a whole wall.
Yeah.
That I could be utilizing for other things like wall art or something, taking up a whole wall in my pretty small house that my husband and I share with our stuff. Like it was fine when I lived by myself and I had this like huge living room area, but now the only place I have to put it is like a smaller area, and it kind of takes up half of our dining room.
Yeah.
It's so big. I don't even want to put like a dining room table in the middle of the dining room, because then there would be no space at all. But yeah, I had made the unconscious decision that like if Jason and I move, or just in general, when I get ready to move that thing, I'm just going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Because I want to move it to a different wall, but it's so heavy
Uh-huh.
that I just kind of want to get rid of it. And Kristen was talking about getting rid of her own buffet and putting shelves there.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's just like kind of a better idea than having this big, huge, heavy thing
Right.
taking up all of this space. And it's like, yes, it was my great grandmother's, but I mean, I don't have any kids. Nobody else is going to appreciate it. Even if I were to have kids, they're not going to appreciate this old wood that was antique thing that was my great grandmother's, because I'm not really into antique things
Right.
anymore at this point in my life. And it's the same with like I've inherited like 4 different things of dishes, and Jason's grandmother was wanting to give us her dishes because none of the other grandkids want the dishes, or the great grandkids.
Right.
So it's just like I have my grandmother's dishes, and I was trying to like foster them off to my cousin Lauren And I'm like,
Yeah.
Lauren, you need these dishes, even though like she's gonna be getting dishes from her mother and her
Mhm.
grandmother, whatever. You need Mama's dishes. And she's like, no, Amber, I really don't need Mama's dishes. And I'm like, but they're the dishes that we had Thanksgiving on. And she and my cousins are like, but yeah, but like she left those dishes to you. And I'm like, but I have Granny's dishes, which are my dad's mom's dishes. And those are a lot prettier dishes than Mama's dishes. I mean, they're pretty and they're nice china dishes, but how many sets of china do I need? I just got a whole nice set of stoneware at my wedding, like black and white, very gorgeous, flowery stoneware. So I don't need all this china.
That's where you analyze what your value is, right?
Right.
You just
Yeah.
spoke about what your value is, not antique things, right?
Yeah, I mean, I used to be into that and the whole heritage and everything like that. But now I'm so overwhelmed with all of these things that
Mhm.
were my great grandmother's.
When you're in a new, young,
And I want my own
Rel-
things.
yeah,
I
you're
don't
in-
want
yeah.
my great grandmother's things. I want to cultivate my own things.
Yeah.
new beginnings. So,
Yeah.
like a value of having new beginnings with your new spouse.
Yeah.
And that's
We
a
want our
value.
things to pass along,
Yeah.
not
And
Right.
create your
my
home.
great 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 grandmother's things, Jason's great great grandmother's things, or whatever.
Right.
Because we'll eventually be getting his parents' things. And I have my parents' things that I need to go through. And, and then there's like all of this stuff that my mom kept from my childhood that, like Barbies or whatever, that I'm just like, they're gross. They've been in storage
Right.
for like 15 years. If I have a child, she's going to want her own brand new Barbies, not my Barbies that I had in the 80s. So
Mhm.
why are they still there? Why are they still in storage?
That's funny because I gave Raina some of mine and Ashley's Barbies
Mhm.
that Mom had passed on because Ashley didn't want them anymore, and she was like, "Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
not." She doesn't value antique Barbies. Now,
Yeah.
antique
Right,
Barbie
yeah.
collector would probably be like, "Ooh,"
Yeah.
know.
Well, see, I do want to
Yeah.
I do want to go through some of that stuff because I know my mom had valuable stuff. But and that's probably why it's taken me 6 years, because I really want to go through it and not just throw a bunch of stuff away. But
Yeah.
I'm at this point where like I'm probably never going to open an antique store like I wanted to for my mom's antiques. So now I'm just like paying this money for storage units each month
Mhm.
when I could be
Selling those
saving
things. And,
selling
yeah.
these things and saving the money that I'm spending on that.
Right.
Because like I kind of want to get like a storage unit for mine and Jason's like decor or something like that.
Mhm.
Or I have boxes and boxes of teacher stuff that comes home every summer that just darkens the living room because I have nowhere else to put it.
Right.
A lot of teachers get like their own little closet size storage unit
Mhm.
for the 3 months of the summer. And that's like kind of something that I want to do because I don't want to have to sit and stare at boxes of teacher stuff in my living room all summer. I want
Right.
to enjoy my living room.
Right. Well, and you're talking about like going through all that stuff. I mean, that was one of the reasons that my goal of cleaning the garage, well, and even the bookkeeping was so tedious and took so long, and I'm still working on it because
You wanted to go through it.
I had to go through it one box at a time, pull out every single thing and make that call. What am I keeping? And I've
Mhm.
purged a lot already, but I don't want to just get rid of the whole box. I want to go through and really
Yeah.
cultivate the things that I keep. And that's what I wanted to do. Just really pay attention to that.
I guess like my biggest problem is that my storage units are 3 hours away,
Oh yeah.
and
That's a problem.
and I'm only like available like a whole week, not a weekend capacity.
Mm-hmm.
In the summer when it's hot,
Yeah.
100
Yeah. And that
degrees outside.
that was a
That-
big holdup on my project too,
Yeah.
because 100-degree weather, I can't work
You
in the
can't
garage.
do that, and that's why our garage hasn't gone anywhere. So you actually like kind of make a good segue into one of the next things that we were talking about, which
Mhm.
was
yeah.
you know, any big ticket items or things that you already have going on in the year
Right.
that
you have to
need
take those
to take into consideration. So like for your goal, Amber, you have a finite window of when you need to complete it in order to get it done.
Yeah,
by
like
Right,
the
X
the
amount
T
of
part
time.
of the SMART, the timely part. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have to be very precise in how you plan that out.
You know,
That's
like
not a goal
Thanksgiving,
that you could
Christmas.
Right.
fly by the
Yeah.
seat of your pants on and just be like, I'm gonna do this, you know,
No,
at some
yeah,
point
you
this
have
year.
to
You're gonna have
set
to write
a
it down.
time
Yeah.
and write it
Mhm.
down and recruit people to help because
Right.
it's such a big job
Well-
that like I need help. That's
and that wa-
another thing.
and that
I
was
put
what I
off.
did.
Yeah.
You know, I decided I was going to start on mine in May, with my garage. I had already started on the taxes and stuff earlier in the year, but the garage thing, I decided I'm going to start on that in May, and I recruited my family to come help me empty out my storage sheds, because my storage sheds I had 3 of them, and they were in such ill repair that they were leaking and ruining the things inside of them. And then I had a tree fell, and I just decided it was time for the 3 sheds to go away and get a new shed built. And
That
so
was the catalyst. The tree was kind of the catalyst.
it was.
for that.
And you know, so then I got a pod. I rented a pod to put all the things for my shed in. And I was thinking, oh, we'll put all that in there. We'll build the shed, and then we'll just start going through it. And oh, it took forever, and it took a long time, and it was hot, and it was miserable. So yeah, that was, you know, the heat and all that was really hard, and so it
Couldn't do
slowed
when
me
it's
down
raining.
a lot.
Yeah, you had to have people who are available on the
Yes.
days that you were available.
Yes.
So, like for you, Amber, you know, coming into 2025, looking at the grand scheme of things for the year, you know, you being a teacher specifically, you have, you know, the summer available to you to venture off to where your, you know, units are.
yeah.
You can't go by yourself, so you're going to have to get other people to go with you. You're going to have to rent some kind of vehicle to bring back the stuff you want
Right.
to bring back.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're
it-
probably
it
going to
takes
need to
some
stay in
planning.
a hotel or wherever lodging, you know, preparations that you need to make. So that's one of those things, like looking at the year ahead and making the plan.
That plan ahead of time, that's
Yeah,
part of it.
because
Yeah,
you wouldn't
that'll-
want to
That will require some planning.
do
Right.
it while you have like a vacation going on or
Well, and-
summer school or something that
and-
you've accidentally committed to.
Yeah, well, and before we started the podcast, Kristen mentioned another thing, you know, that Amber got married last year,
Yeah.
and she was asking whether she had set goals and then added that wedding on top of those goals, or whether the wedding itself was one of the goals. And that's another reason to look at those big items.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a big vacation? Do you have a job change coming up? Do you have a
baby
move
on the way.
a baby on the way, or something else
Yeah.
like that? Because you've got to make
You got to
room
give
for
yourself
that.
grace.
right,
Yeah.
right.
And that was my answer right there, was that I had to give myself grace because of weddings.
So yeah, that, you know, those things are important things to take into consideration when you're doing that. And you know, this time of year, you probably already have some goals in mind that you want to tackle, maybe. And you know, what are you planning to continue some of your goals? Like I mentioned, I will be carrying these goals with me. The financial goals, it's going to be an ongoing thing every year, because I am going to have taxes and bookkeeping for my businesses and things like that every year. So that is an ongoing goal every year. The garage is not quite finished yet, so it will be ongoing. And once I'm done with the garage, it will just move to other areas of the house. So it'll be, same song, different verse, But, uh, sometimes we have goals and we get to the end of the year and we go, you know, that goal really just is not in alignment with what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spend any more time on that than I already have, so I'm going to just toss that one aside or do something different. And sometimes maybe you do keep the goal, but it goes lower down on the ladder and you move something else higher up because it's more important.
Yeah. So funny thing, the year before last, I had a very big, hairy, audacious goal for my commission pay at work.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't hit the goal, and I realized maybe I was thinking too big for, the way our bonus commission works is, the more you bring in, sometimes the scale changes. So the carrot's always hanging in front of you.
Yeah.
And so I could never reach it. I was never getting there. Well, then this year I changed my goal and I said, you know what? I'm not going to work any overtime. I'm not going to give an extra moment of my time. I'm going to retract. I'm going to clock in, get my work done as quick as I can, and exit out. Right? Well, I did the exact opposite. I think I worked more hours this year.
I know you did.
Than ever. And it's funny because I had 3 different people telling me, you can work overtime to get that done. And I'm like, but I'm already working overtime to get this other thing done. And, a big project, kind of like a lateral shift in my role at work, was offered to me. So, but it was kind of like, you can do what you're already doing right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, but of course, so I took on the role, which is funny because that was what I was trying not to do. And I'm like, how did I self-sabotage myself and not even realize it? Literally, my word this year was pause. And I felt like I just pushed fast forward at work.
Right.
And was like, more, give me more. Because, if I'm sweating it, then I must be doing it right, And so in looking back at that, I was like, I wonder what I could have done differently with that goal. Or maybe it wasn't really anything that I could have done differently, because if I had said no, what would have happened?
Right.
Probably the other person would have gotten that role and I would be working and doing their work, So I don't know if any of that really was in my control, but what I did do is start noticing it, and paying attention to that I wasn't hitting my goal.
Uh-huh.
And so this year, I'm kind of at that point where I'm like, it's not even important anymore. Why it was so important before was because of professionalism at work. And I was really trying to accomplish what I wanted with finesse.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm like, at this point, is that important to me?
Right.
Or is there something else that I want instead? So now I'm kind of like, well, I'm going to throw that goal out the window. I'm going to maintain. I'm going to come to work, do what I'm supposed to do. I'm going to do my job, help other people do better at their job. But I am going to shift my focus on a different big, hairy, audacious goal, because I tried for that big, hairy, audacious goal and I touched the sun and I didn't like it.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes that happens. Sometimes you get your goal.
Yeah.
Or you get close to your goal and you realize
and
that
the funny
it's really
thing
not
is
worth
that
it.
this year I hit that bonus goal and I was like, wow, that was a lot of work to earn that, and it wasn't worth it.
It wasn't worth it.
It
right,
wasn't
right.
worth it at all.
And
it never is to overwork and kill yourself at work. That's one of the things that I tell new teachers all the time, since I've kind of this year taken on the role of a new teacher mentor. Inadvertently, I wasn't seeking that one out, but new teachers have been coming to me and asking me since it's my year 10 teaching, which is kind of crazy. In the teaching capacity, it's year 14 or year 15 in educational capacity, and they're just and it's just how do you do it? And it's kind of don't take your work home.
Right.
That's the
right.
first thing that I tell them is that you will burn out quicker. Like after my first year of teaching, I really thought about not going back
Right.
because I burnt myself out so bad that I had to take a year off. So it's just like don't burn yourself out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of me says like, "Ooh, this year I really want to have like one big hairy audacious goal and then like not try to even like think about
Well, and that's kind of what I did
maintaining
with
or
mine.
goaling or
I
anything.
had-
I don't want to
I had-
track it or anything.
I had 2 big, hairy, audacious goals.
Mhm.
One of them that had to be done, and
I feel
one
like
that
I'm
I
a bad
really wanted
influence
to.
on y'all because y'all used to be like this whole like I'm gonna track everything,
Yeah, but they
and
were
I'm just
small
like
goals, though.
Yeah, I-
chill.
That's the
You
thing.
I think
know,
that's the
let's
difference.
chill.
Is my goals in the past were smaller goals, and these 2
Right.
goals were, like you keep calling them, big, hairy, audacious goals. They are time-consuming, life-consuming goals.
Yeah.
And so it has taken every bit of energy and mental capacity and waking hours that I have to get as far as I've gotten,
Right.
Mhm.
while maintaining my life,
Yeah.
So, and that was where I just said, I don't have the capacity to, those other goals, they're in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't have time to think about losing weight. If I get an opportunity to eat better, then sometimes I do. And if I
Yeah.
don't beat myself up over it because
I feel like
I
I
didn't
do
set
like
that goal.
one BHAG a year.
uh-huh.
Like last year, mine was
The
wedding.
wedding,
The
yeah.
wedding. This year, mine was starting grad school.
Right.
And that has been time consuming. Well, okay, no, I've had 2 this year. Merge mine and Jason's
Well,
thing.
yeah,
and
that's been a big deal
and,
too. Yeah.
rearrange and unpack wedding stuff, and I'm still working on that.
Yeah.
Just like you're still working on the garage. I'm
Yeah.
still working on that. And then, then there's this, whole like grad school side hustle thing that I'm doing. 18-page papers a week,
Right.
so
Right.
that's a lot,
Right.
so
And-
those are my BHAGs. So yeah, there is no time to like Kristen was like, have you done your shadow work lately? And I'm like, man, I haven't even been home.
Right.
I don't even have a desk at my house because I'm working on getting all that put together.
Right.
Right. I know. And so one of the small goals, and this is funny because I considered this a small goal, like a trivial, fun, like laissez-faire goal. I didn't set like expectations. It was just, I want, yeah, we'll try this out. So for Christmas last year, I got a steel tongue drum. I can never say that right. Steel tongue drum. And it's not like learning how to play the trumpet and learning how to read music, because if you don't know how to do either of those, you're learning 2 things. You're learning how to play a musical instrument and you're learning how to read music.
Right.
Steel tongue drum is like, it's already in tune, so you just bang it, and then there's
Yeah,
like
it's in a
little
key.
there's little notes, and you can
Yes.
go find music that you can play, but you can also just play it because it sounds pretty. And so I was like, you know what, for my learning goal this year, I am going to learn to play the steel tongue drum. So here's where it's like yes or no kind of question. I was playing it, and I haven't played it in a while. I
Right.
haven't, because here's the thing, it's in a bag, so you have to unzip the bag and actually pull it out and play it.
See, that's like my planner.
I think
It's in
that's
my
all-
backpack. You
Yeah,
have to
you
unzip
actually
it
have to pull
and
it out
take it out and look at it. Yeah,
Yes.
that's
And same thing with my goals, because it's not visible and it's not there on the table.
Right.
I'm not going to play it. But if it was on the dining room table, I would probably walk by it and play it every day
Right.
if it was out,
Right.
right? So I was contemplating that, but then I was like, that means I have to make room for it in my life.
Right.
Okay? Here's the metaphor for it, right? You have to make room for it.
And yes, you do.
Which means that you have to, you can't create space.
You can't make time. You can't create space.
So you have to get rid of something else
Yes.
to make space. So
Yes.
that purge that you were talking about, Amber,
mm-hmm.
that has to happen in order for other things to come into your life.
Right.
you have to make that in your mind. Say, I'm going to stop doing this so I can do this. Or I'm not going to have this
And-
here so that this can be here.
You have to let go of the things that are no longer serving you
Yeah.
in order to make room for the
Uh-huh.
things
Well, like
that will.
you know, ever since everything has been happening, it's just been like move forward, move forward, move forward,
Mhm.
don't stop, don't
Mhm.
stop, don't stop. And that is like the metronome of my life is like don't stop, don't
Right.
stop,
Right.
don't stop, don't
Oh,
But
I've
stop.
what's
always
don't
been
stop.
that
happening,
way.
Amber, is your forward motion
forward.
is you're carrying the baggage with you.
You're
moving
dragging
forward.
it along. Yeah.
Yes,
And same thing with my steel
physical
drum.
and mental weight.
So here's my question: did I achieve the goal? Because I did sit down and play it, and I taught myself how to play Somewhere Over the Rainbow
Uh-huh.
by just sitting and playing it, and I wrote down
The notes.
the
Yeah.
notes so that I could pick it up and play it. So in a sense, I accomplished the goal, but then that was really halfway done. I didn't
Uh-huh.
really accomplish the goal.
Well, in what capacity do you consider accomplished or not accomplished? So, like, you know, you just now started, so you're not going to be joining a steel drum, a steel
Right.
drum band.
My
you
goal
know,
definition was learn how to play it.
Well, when you
well,
did,
you learned how to play it.
Yeah.
you know how to play
You
it.
met the
you
goal.
have played it. You have played a song on it.
Yeah.
You
So
played
I
a
think
song.
that's- I
Yeah,
think
you met
that's
that
awesome.
goal.
That's,
You can sit down at any time and play it.
and I can give myself that small win by
Yes.
acknowledging what I actually did accomplish,
Right.
and moving forward. Like,
Yeah,
now-
don't get
and-
up in the perfectionism of it.
thank
Right.
you. Yes, I
Yeah.
don't have to now be like the world's greatest steel
Right.
tongue drum player before I can say I accomplished that goal.
Right. Well, that was me. And I got my taxes sent off. I mean, I literally got them sent off in the nick of time,
Mhm.
but I got them sent off, 2 years worth of taxes. And I got this year's
Mhm.
documenting up to date so that when
Yay!
January comes,
Mhm.
I can sit down and just run the reports off the computer and send them to my accountant, and I'm not behind anymore.
So your small win or small goal, small now, it's not a big chunk anymore. It's a
No.
small goal for next year could very well be just to turning them in on time.
Yeah, it's just maintaining
Mm-hmm.
the efforts of keeping my record, keeping up, and getting my reports sent to the accountant on time.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I need.
Yeah.
And so that was a win. And even the garage, even though it's not completely finished, I do have a brand new shed
Mhm.
that is full and well organized.
Mhm.
The garage is getting there.
You've offloaded quite a few things
I
that no
have
longer.
purged so
Yeah.
much stuff. And in the meantime, I have kind of cleaned up some other areas of the house because in order to, as I was cleaning through the stuff and deciding what I wanted to keep, if it was not something that I wanted to go to the shed, I had to find a place for it in the house. And so I did some of that. So in order to find a place for it in the house, I might have to purge other things in the house. And so it's just kind of been this little cycle. And like I said, that purge and organized cycle will continue as a goal
Mhm.
for next year. I won't
Yeah.
specifically say it's the garage. It'll
Yeah.
just be household.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's
Honestly, I
enough.
feel like decluttering is part of maintaining your house.
Well, it really is.
Cleaning and then there's decluttering. So
But-
now
but
that you've got your decluttering muscles,
I did the decluttering, but I also did changes because
Mhm.
I totally had 3 sheds demolished, a tree that fell
Mhm.
demolished and taken out, and then a new shed built from
Mhm.
scratch. And I mean those are big projects right there, in and of themselves as part of that bigger project. So it's not really just maintaining. It really was a big project. It now will be maintaining, but that would be the goal, is just to maintain by staying organized, by keeping it organized and continuing the progress of creating the household that I most want.
Yeah.
And that's in alignment with my values,
Yeah.
the household that I
Mhm.
want.
Mhm.
So I think that's important. And I will set some specific goals later, but and I'll probably set some goals in some of those other areas because there are some other things I want to do, like some training that I should have done this year, but I didn't do. So I do need to put that on my calendar and make that happen, and some things like that. But I'll get to those in the next 6 weeks. I will work my way through those and refine those goals and figure out what I can really do without overburdening myself with too many goals or too many big hairy goals. Maybe have a big hairy goal and some small little things that I can do in between.
Mhm.
And then as those small little things in between get accomplished, I can exchange those for other small goals while I'm still working on that big hairy goal. I wanted to talk about how we go, how we get to the types of goal setting, the different kinds of goal setting. So I've mentioned before that we used to do Cultivate What Matters, and it was a whole program where you go through the power sheets. It's a workbook that you go through, and it kind of helps you assess your goals and kind of gets you started with a little roadmap or whatever. And we quit using that a couple of years ago and started developing our own that we have been using. And I will continue to use that method that we are in development. And hopefully by next year sometime we can release that to the public. It is not a calendar-based system. So if we're able to get it out, before the end of the year or even in mid-year, it's still usable for someone who wants to set some goals. But I think I'm going to continue using that system. But Amber had done a little bit of research and was looking at some other kinds of things. We've talked about SMART goals before. And
then she said BHAG.
yes.
Yeah,
So
we
why
didn't-
don't you tell us about some of those other goal systems?
Yeah, because I'm really interested in.
Well,
Something to spice it up.
another goal system, which is something that people unconsciously do, I think, because Kristen was talking about, you have to set a time for it, or you have to set and this is something that we use when we teach. This is like a good teaching goal system is backwards design.
Yeah.
So you teach with the end test or the end project. You teach a lesson or a unit with the end in mind,
Right.
or like say STAR test.
which we
you
all
know,
love.
Yeah, I know, right?
Her.
Or
That is a
like
bad example,
Yeah,
Amber.
I
I know,
is a
I know,
bad
I know, I know.
example.
I know, but schools like throw that at you all the
I
time.
know,
But like
right?
you look at like your end goal, like what you see, what makes you happy, what you're striving for, and then you work backwards from there. So yes, this thing is in my future. Well, then what will have to be done right before that? What will have to be done right before that? What will have to be done right before that? Because you have like all of these like little small goals that you do before you get to the
Mhm.
big
Mm-hmm.
end goal. So like say like my big hairy purging thing that I want to do, that's really not my end goal. My
Okay.
life end goal. One of my goals in life is to travel.
Uh-huh.
So I spend over $200 a month on storage units.
Right.
How much
that's how
money
you
would I
arrive to
have
that,
next year? Like say if I didn't have the storage
Right.
units next month.
Mhm.
In 1 year, that's $2,400
that you would save
that
by
I
not
would
having
have
them.
saved. And so like and this is how my brain works is like if I cut this out, I can pretend I'm still paying it, and I can pay like say a savings that money every month.
Mhm.
Instead of paying the storage unit that money, I can pay the savings
Right.
that money.
Well, you were talking about working backwards, and I thought of another example of how that works. I have two different examples. One of them that I just thought of was when you're working on as a theater teacher, you have a production,
Yes.
and that's a great
Yeah, that's the end
example.
goal. Is
That
like
the end goal is to put on this production. So then you think about what do I need,
what do you need to do, and then you make a list of things that you need to do,
and
like
you just work
set,
backwards.
and a
you have actors, and
timeline.
you have
Yeah.
clothes, and
So
then-
like you have to set up like a timeline of we're gonna get the set done by this day. We're gonna have costumes done by this day.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna have warm ups done. We're gonna have everything done by this time and day. And man, that's like one of my favorite things to do when I'm planning as a theater teacher is like planning out that timeline.
Right.
And I really like because I teach college, or I have the last couple of years, is that I bought this new planner that's just like a desk planner. Not the one that stays in my bag, but like an actual desk planner that stays on my desk that never leaves, that's right next to my computer. And I put the college due dates in the planner.
Right.
It's like weekly time. And then I say, okay, this is the date that this turns in. So we need to do this assignment the day before that. We need to do this assignment the day before that. So because of this planner that I have it like right out in front of me, weekly by weekly, I have backwards designed my whole year of
Right.
college planning. Now, does it go like it's supposed to go? No, I've had to white out a lot of things. I've had to put
Move
arrows
around,
on
yeah.
a lot of things. There are things, that come up like college tours, whatever that we do, that, I have to white out and write over and like, okay, well, then we're just going to cut this lesson in half so we can still reach the goal by this date.
Mm-hmm. And another example of doing that backwards planning, Kristen and I use it for our holiday meals. So we know, we set the end goal as we're going to eat dinner at this time. This is when we're going to serve dinner. And so then we start
3
backwards
hours
by
later.
I was about to say, you better not. Shush.
Shush, shush. No. Actually, we have done Thanksgiving and we got things done on time. Everything hit the table at the right time. There have
Usually
been
other people that we are anticipating doing their part that failed to do their part.
Yes, it usually is. It's usually
Always
someone else
that.
dropping the ball. Like my husband not starting the turkey at the time that I told him to start the turkey. But that's neither here nor there. But usually we sit down and we say, okay, we're going to eat at this time. So in order to eat at this time, we have to carve the turkey by this time, and we have to pull the bread out of the oven by this time, and and all that, and we work out this whole schedule that starts the week before, that includes the grocery shopping and the making the pies and
Yeah.
making the cornbread and drying out the stuffing and all that stuff. So I like that one for one-off projects particularly, or like a big hairy project. I don't know the method of planning for the big hairy audacious goals, but I would think that if you had a big hairy project, that would be a good way to do it. Or you can start forward, but I like going backwards because what has to come first? What has to come before that? What has to come before that? There was another one that you mentioned called hard goals.
Yes, hard goals. Let me get back to where the hard goals. So, hard goals stands for your goal, it's basically like your goals need to be hard, right? So, they need to be heartfelt. So you really need to care about them. Like if you're going to set a goal, you got to care about it.
Because you're not going to accomplish it if you don't really care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They need to be animated, meaning that they need to be vivid and alive in your mind.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
that's why I forgot some of my goals. 'Cause
Maybe.
they weren't
Yeah.
vivid and alive.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you need to set like requirements on those goals. So the
Mhm.
R is for required.
Okay.
So, and
That's probably the measure and the time.
yeah,
Right.
pretty much
I would think
because
so.
like
Yes. Of SMART goals.
to
yes.
to cut back on procrastination, you need to have requirements. And then of course you can't have hard without difficult, so the D stands for difficult.
Okay.
So that means that you have to go through the difficult spots to get to that sweet spot.
Right.
And that's the end of your goal.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and a lot of times that's where a lot of us fail in our goals is when we get to that difficult part
Yeah.
and we lack the motivation or the heartfeltness or whatever to
you
push
get
through.
caught
Yeah.
up either on you get caught up on the other things like heartfelt, the requirements, the procrastination. You get caught up on all those other things.
Right. But as long as if you get to the hard part, the difficult part, then just keep pushing, and that's that.
And one thing that you do on the hard goals is that you make lists of your, and it even suggests that you do bubble maps really when you're
Okay.
putting out these hard goals.
But you make lists of what?
You make lists of your motivators.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
like, what are your intrinsic motivators? What are your personal motivators? And
Well,
what are
that's-
your
okay.
extrinsic motivators?
What
Okay.
is extrinsic and intrinsic?
Ooh.
Intrinsic would be internal, right?
Yeah,
From
so
within.
internal and external.
External, extrinsic would be
Oh, okay. It's like
I wanna-
self gratification or
Mhm.
someone being proud of you.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or losing weight so that you feel better versus losing weight so your family.
Spouse thinks you look great. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it's saying, like, first you need to create a vision. So that would be like the bubble map, like you,
Okay.
or,
A
vision board. Yeah,
yeah.
that's where I was
Yeah.
coming. Like, I was looking at your
Well,
vision
and
board.
we've done things like that, a vision board or
Yeah,
a manifesto,
something visual.
a manifesto,
So,
anything like that.
Kristen
yeah.
was
Oh,
saying
bubble
that she
map,
didn't
mind
reach.
map.
Mind
It's
map,
like
yes.
Kristen was saying like she didn't reach some of her goals because her goals weren't visible.
Yes.
So yeah, that's one of the things on hard goals is that you need to do is create something visible, like a vision board, like a mind map, or just list
A
your
big
goals,
list
a
of your
big
goal
list,
on your
and
bulletin
tack
board.
it up on your bulletin board.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing with goal filling is a lot of people like to track their goal progress. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. This is kind of the time of the year that you might want to start looking at buying a workbook for your goals, or maybe buying your day planner to set it up so that you can get it set up before the first of the year. That's one of the things that we always like to do is buy our planners in the fall, and then add all those important dates, add all those birthdays and things like that, or anything that that's going to be in there, and having that thing ready to go once January 1st rolls around. And it's also the time of year right now when we start talking about our one little word and choosing the word that we're going to carry with us next year. And hopefully that word will be something that will help you attain your goals. I usually try to choose.
And that's another thing on the goal list is the one word goals. Yeah. Or the one word.
Right. As finding a word of power, a power word. There's lots of different words for it. But we like to have that word, like Kristen mentioned, her word this year was pause. And she used pause in attaining her goals in some sense.
Yeah, I really tried to. That way I'm not working against myself.
Right. And it's not that the one little word becomes another goal. It really just becomes a facet of the goals you already have. So like mine for this year has been balance. And it was a really powerful word for me because I actually chose it before my husband passed. But I realized how much I needed that word once my husband did pass, because I had to redefine balance in my life. And that was finding balance in setting my goals and finding balance in accomplishing my goals and making sure that my goals or my pursuit of my goals did not upset the balance that I was trying to create. And I can't remember, what was your word again, Amber?
Mine was momentum.
Oh, yeah. Well, you've definitely had that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's been part of your goal is, especially with your grad school stuff and all that. So you've maintained momentum and you keep going. So I really like the idea of picking a word and letting that word be a guide towards your goals as well, because
Or sometimes just an anchor.
or an anchor. Yeah.
So we all agreed before recording this episode that we were not ready to share our word. I'm pretty sure I know what my word is this year.
See, and I
For
keep
next
bouncing
year.
back and forth between a
But
couple of different
yeah,
words.
it's kind of like once you say it on the podcast, it's kind
It's
of
like
like set in
stuck.
stone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're not ready just yet to commit, but I'm pretty sure I know what my word is. But we're going to announce our words a little bit closer to the new year, if not after January 1st.
Right. So
I have an idea of what mine is also.
yeah. Like I said, I've been kind of bouncing around a couple of different ones, but I haven't really landed on a solid one yet. So, but yeah, we'll do some kind of announcement closer to the first of the year or the end of the year, as the case may be. And we'll probably do some, I think we've got some podcasts coming up right after the first of the year about goals again. And we'll talk, some more about that. If not before the end of the year. And if you have any questions about goal setting or working on your goals, any of that, please send us an email at info@modernmusings.net, or you can go on to our MMC chat Facebook group. You can get there through our Modern Musings Facebook page, or you can get there from our website, which is modernmusings.net. And please give us some likes and some thumbs up and share us with your friends and help us get the word out and all that jazz. So next week, Amber, what are we talking about?
Well, next week will be an interesting episode because Black Friday is coming up. So our episode is going to be titled Add to Cart. And so it's basically exploring like shopping and mental health.
Okay, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Okay, so we will be back next week with Add to Cart.
Yes.
And we hope you are looking at your goals and making some ideas and some plans, and that you'll share them with us. And until then, we'll be back next week.